Hello, CEP 200 students, and welcome to Unit 2 of the Spring 2022 section of Intro to the Counseling Professions. So, if you guys want to pull up the tracking calendar and follow along with me, that is where I'm going to be going off of for the video. We're going to talk a little bit about the counseling careers of clinical mental health counselors and addiction counselors, as these are the two counseling professions that we're going to focus on in this unit. So we're going to talk a little bit about those, a little bit about the material in the folders, and then the discussion board. So as mentioned, we are going to be talking about the clinical mental health counselors, which when they are credentialed and licensed, they are called LMHCs in New York State and a number of other states. In some other states, they're called LPCs. So these credentials kind of go along with what I was mentioning in the previous unit video when we were talking a little bit about licensure varying by state. So the NCMHCE exam is the licensing exam that New York State, Florida, Massachusetts, and like a handful of other states recognize as their credentialing exam. So individuals in these roles in these states are considered LMHCs. There is an NCC exam in the other states that credential the LPCs. So this is why licensure is not transferable in every single state, just some of them. We went through that a little bit in the last unit video, just because that was on the quiz, and I hope that that kind of further makes sense as we talk about the credentialing process. For addiction counselors in New York State, you can become a credentialed alcohol and substance use counselor. So that is a KSAC, and that is through OASIS, the Office of Alcohol and Substance Abuse Services. But what's really interesting about clinical mental health counselors and addiction counselors, they can kind of interchange roles. So a clinical mental health counselor, an LMHC like myself, we can broaden our scope to addiction counseling. So me at my day job, I am an integrated therapist. So I do both mental health and addictions. And I can bill for both of those services with insurance companies. The problem is for addiction counselors, if you only have a certification and not a licensure, you cannot do that. So KSACs, they are certified and not licensed, so they can bill for substance use services, but they cannot do mental health counseling or any type of mental health services. So it's all just between if you're licensed or if you're certified. Licensure allows you to bill for certain things with insurance companies. Certification is not as great, and we'll learn more about that in the next unit with rehabilitation counselors. Same thing with them. They are certified nationwide as opposed to being licensed in a particular state, so they cannot bill insurance companies for certain services. So I am an LMHC, so I am a clinical mental health counselor. If you guys have any questions about this profession, either of these professions, please let me know. I've been working in the field for a number of years. So I'd like to think I know a little bit about that, the credentialing process, and kind of what you have to do to keep up with that certification or that licensure. So for Unit 2, what we are going to do, you're going to read chapters 3 and 6 of Helkowski. So these are the two chapters dedicated to each of these counseling professions. You are going to watch a YouTube video titled Mental Health, What Happens in Counseling. You're going to read a supplemental article. You're going to complete the Unit 2 assignment, Journal Reflection number 1, and Discussion Board number 2. So your prompt for journal number 2, we are already going to be thinking about the advocacy paper. We are going to talk about this throughout the semester. I know I mentioned to you in the welcome video, start thinking about a population that you would like to maybe take a look at. But before we start doing all of that, I really like to make sure that everyone actually knows what I mean when I say the term advocacy. So the prompt for Journal 2 is, as we are considering our topic for our advocacy paper, let's be sure that we know what is meant by advocacy and what that looks like. So when you hear the term advocacy, what comes to mind and how can you advocate for others? So, go ahead, take a look on Google if you're not entirely sure. Feel free to reflect about what your own personal understanding is of it. I will go through all of the journals and make sure that your definition or idea of advocacy lines up with what we are basically hoping to accomplish with the advocacy paper. So don't stress about the paper too much just yet. We're just kind of doing the bare bones to figure out and make sure that we all are on the same page about what advocacy is. So any questions with that, feel free to let me know. So for discussion board number 2, we are going to watch a TED Talk by Dr. Kelly. We are going to start delving into the idea of trauma-informed care. And I'm going to ask that you don't delve too much into this if this is something that like maybe you know about and you want to research further, or like maybe you haven't heard of it before and you like really feel like you need to research it. Hold off, because we are going to be going more into the trauma stuff in Unit 4. So for this discussion board, you're just going to watch the TED Talk and you're going to reflect on a couple of questions. So what is trauma-informed care? It does say that Dr. Kelly provides a brief description, but I also want you to branch out and do some of your own research as well and expand on that definition. Tell me a little bit in your own words about how childhood trauma affects later development. So there's a little bit more specification with this question on here too. It's in your tracking calendar and it's also in the discussion board. The next point is, why is trauma-informed care so important for individuals in the counseling and helping professions? And what are your personal opinions on trauma-informed care and what does it mean to you? And then also use this as an opportunity to reflect with any type of questions. So I will tell you, some students seem to like really jump on and like understand what trauma-informed care is. Some have a little bit more difficulty, I think, understanding it. So the one thing I want to distinguish here is, and I'm going to give you a definition, still do a little bit of research and kind of figure out, which one makes most sense to you, but trauma-informed care is not an intervention. It is not a counseling technique. It's none of that. It is simply an approach to every single person that you are going to work with. I utilize trauma-informed care with my clients. I use trauma-informed care with people that I meet in the community when I'm not working. I use trauma-informed care with friends. It's overall just an approach. The idea is that you approach each person with the assumption that they've been through something traumatic. A reason for that is we live in a society where almost everyone has experienced something traumatic to them, whether it be growing up with a parent who had mental illness or substance use services or was incarcerated, or there was abuse in the home. Maybe you were in a tragic car accident. Maybe you just had like a terrible relationship and the breakup was very devastating and traumatic to you. Everyone has their own form of trauma. We will learn again about this in Unit 4, but just for now, I just want you to get the basic idea of trauma-informed care. So because of the rates of people who have essentially been through something traumatic, it's safe to assume that almost everyone has been through something. And so if we are approaching every single person as if they have been through something traumatic, we are less likely to trigger them or, maybe accidentally be insensitive to something. So if we are approaching everyone with gentleness and kindness and care, with the assumption that they've been through something, we're setting up our first interaction with them to be really good. We don't want to re-trigger. We don't want any of that. So that is what that essentially is getting at, and you'll learn more about that in the TED Talk and a little bit more as you do your own research into that. Let's see. Trying to think if there's anything else that's really important for you to know about these two that you're not going to learn. But I think everything gets covered. What happens in counseling video is really cool because it just basically distinguishes like the fine line of like what's a counselor, what's a friend. We as therapists or counselors don't give advice. We simply gently lead people to the answers that they already have. So that video will talk a little bit about that. I just noticed that discussion board number 2 for some reason is hidden, so we're going to go ahead and make that available. And I think that is it. Again, for the supplemental research article, you don't have to read this word for word. If you want to read the information as well as the discussion, you should be good to go. You'll get the general idea of what's going on in the study. And then, so this unit starts today, and I actually just realized I had not the most updated syllabus open. The assignments are all still the same. I just have to double check our due dates. So 2/14 to start. Let's see here. There we are. Yeah. Okay, 2/14 to start. We end with this unit 227. Okay, so you've got 2 weeks. Starts today, 2 Sundays from now by 11:59 p.m. So if you guys have any questions or any thoughts or anything, feel free to send me an email. All right, good luck, guys.